guys, and welcome back to the Renaissance Room podcast. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about spiritual abuse. Now, I made the podcast episode talking about church hurt. I kind of did honestly, at the state and the time, it really was just kind of giving insensitivity, immaturity. But as I've gained perspective, as I've grown, and speaking of growth, my birthday's coming up. My birthday is literally in 2 or 3 weeks. And when I say I feel grown, but in the most sexy and beautifulest way, I be on socials like everyone else. And I feel like whenever I disengage with socials and just really tap into my own life, which is definitely something I do from moment to moment, especially when I'm heavily in socials, I've really been talking about this since the beginning of time. I know a lot of people talk about how social media is just so negative and it's toxic. You find yourself sometimes being inspired by social media, but I think this kind of goes back to with the Robert Greene, what he talked about in this interview. He just was essentially saying for a lot of people, you don't really know yourself. And I think it's very easy to lose yourself on social media because there's so many ideas, right? And so it's you just kind of find yourself wanting to do everything, wanting to try everything, feeling like you need to go and do all these different things. And I think we kind of seen this with the rise of entrepreneurship. Now, I was definitely someone who was kind of naive in regards to entrepreneurship. I thought that everyone had that in them. And that's why you don't really hear me talking about how everybody can do it, because I just don't really believe that to be the case. I think that there's a lot that really goes into whether or not a person's going to be entrepreneurial. I think if you have a background in entrepreneurship, I know for me, my life, I feel very, very blessed because I feel like a lot of the things that I do are really tailored into my life. And I thank God that, before the rise of social media and the booming of social media and all this different advice, my life was very much on its path. I very much have found my own path. I really was tapped into what were the things that I wanted to do as a child. And so my life I feel very grateful for that. I really do, because I feel like I stayed the course in regards to my life, regardless of everything. But as you guys know, I have a family full of artists. My mother always wanted to be a teacher. She used to buy me journals. I used to read her books growing up, right? A lot of urban fiction. So very interesting. But, grew up loving books, grew up loving reading and writing. That was just my thing. If you guys don't know, there was this place that was called Sylvan. I think that's what it was called back in the day. And it was a tutoring program for reading and writing. And I remember, working with these really cool teachers. I didn't have any trauma. You know what I mean? There was no trauma there. Working with the facilitators, and we used to get rewards for reading and things like that. So I think that really kind of programmed me to always kind of find writing and reading as a reward, right? Education as a reward. And so that's one thing. I grew up, my family full of artists. My dad's very creative. My grandfather is really the sole creator, right? He's very creative, very much inclusive. And I think we've always kind of had conversations that definitely fixated on interdisciplinaries. So we've always talked about things like culture, literature, things like that. And then, yeah, my dad is entrepreneurial. So for me, it was I wanted that lifestyle of freedom. That was something that was modeled to me. And I really admired the lifestyle of kind of just not necessarily having this very mundane routine. And when I think about my desires for entrepreneurship, I even thought about this the other day, and I was just why do I want to be an entrepreneur? What is it about this that just, and I think that outside of freedom, I just think it's you never are going to get your earning worth by an employer. And it's not to say that for everyone. I know for me, I'm 100% honest about this. I think for me, I'm honest with myself. And when I say honest, I mean honest with myself. Not having a college degree, that's why we talked about in that last episode whether or not you should go to college. I think a lot of people kind of look at that and they're college is so outdated. But, if you're going to go in any field, you want to be college degreed. You want to be, you want to obtain that, because it's going to be very hard for you to get raises and promotions and even really be considered for certain things if you don't have that degree. I think that's the downside of social media, right? I think that there's a lot of lack of education around a lot of different things. And I think when you have young people kind of ruling that, there's also this lack of experience. And so you have a lot of people giving advice and wisdom, well, not wisdom, but perceived wisdom, right? And it's just like, you just don't know any better, and it's kind of like that with dating. But yeah, so I've been growing in a lot of different ways, and it just feels really good to be on my path and, be where I am in my life. And I just feel very grateful for that. And, it's like, there's so many things I want to do, but getting to a point in my life where it's like, okay, and that's why for me, writing has always been my constant. I truly believe in like kind of honing in on one skill and then having the other things that you do. And I think if it works, it works. But I really just was like so big on kind of like being my own investor, at least in the initial stages, right? I took what I did have, which was little, and I just kind of worked with that. And I think that's something that I'm doing like continuously. And I'm kind of at this point now where I'm like, okay, how can we get to a different space where we have better resources? I definitely believe in being the type of person who maximizes your resources. Like, don't be the type of person to where it's like, you're not even trying because you feel like, XYZ. No, like definitely maximize on your resources. I definitely feel like at this point in my life, I'm really big on that. Like, I'm really big on like making sure I'm doing everything that I possibly can before I'm like, start talking about a lot of external factors. I definitely used to be someone who was, oh my God, I have to move. And even though I do think that relocating definitely fosters a greater sense of opportunities, like inevitably. But I definitely think for me in the beginning, it was important for me to get out of that mindset, because I think what I've found for a lot of people who have that mindset is that the root of it is like, you can be anywhere, but like if you're a lazy person, if you're not someone who's resourceful, if you can have all the resources in the world and you're still not going to use them. So I wanted to be very clear and like check myself, you know what I mean? Like with that, like I was like, yo, let's not be, you know what I mean? So that's been cool. That's been interesting. And we're Renaissance Room, this has always been a hobby for me, but it's so crazy. When I rebranded and the intention for Renaissance Room and just everything, like I was completely in a space where I was like really, really big on educating in regards to African American history. I think what's unfortunate about social media, but I also think what's really cool is that we live in a world now where it's very progressive. I think a lot of times people try to, like steer clear from politics or lean a little too much into politics. And what I mean progressive is like the world is definitely a lot more inclusive than it was when I was like, working and when I was doing all those different things. Like me being 16, like 10 years ago, the world was completely different. So I feel like that's so crazy, yo. I'm really getting old, but I feel like me growing is like, I'm so grateful. Like when I tell you, this is why I described it too, like it's sexy, because I feel so confident in myself. I feel so assured of myself. Like, I know what I like. And I think that that's just a beautiful thing about aging. And like, that's the beauty in like the gift of time, because it's like, you get a better understanding of things. And then like looking back, hindsight, when I tell you, like, I feel like every day, and I know it's been through prayer, but like, every day I just been waking up and caring a little bit less about people and like things that didn't work out in my past. I was watching Eat, Pray, Love, and I just like that movie was so for me. Like with her being a writer and everything, I love movies about writers, because why do we all have the same hobbies, and like why do we all have the same kind of like, it's so cool. But I was watching that film, and one thing that really stuck out for me, I was literally watching the film for like some type of insight, because I was feeling kind of stuck in my own life, to be honest. But I watched the film, and one thing that really stuck out to me was when the guy was just telling her, like, if you would just let go and like forgive yourself and let go of the past and just, forgive other people and just let go of all of that stuff, you will see that God will fill you with so much love and light, and it's going to carry you, into your future. Now, he didn't say that, like I'm paraphrasing, but that was something that was like an aha moment for me, because I'm like, yo, like if you really just like let stuff go. And, when I started thinking too, like what also really helped change my perspective, because if you don't know, girl, one thing about me, I am a nostalgic Nikki, honey. When I tell you, I will sit and like literally, girl, I could dwell. Oh, girl, I can dwell. And I had a lot of people around me who were also kind of like dwellers as well. So I think that, that might have played a role, like the company you keep, you know what I mean? But when I say I started looking forward to my life and to my future, like it completely shifted the dynamic. And I feel like being on the opposite side of that, it's like, yeah, I'm definitely like, yeah, no. You know what I mean? Like I feel like my life is literally just now getting started by the grace of God. And so it's just like, I'm not even dwelling on what was, you know what I mean? Like I'm so here in the now of like what is, and I do feel that love and I do feel that light. And so I think perceptions are beautiful, and I think perceptions are everything. Obviously being a writer, you know what I mean? Loving some reading, like I know how your mindset can really shift your outcomes and in your outlook on life. And so I think that's one thing too, I would say, I've learned to stop engaging with certain online communities. It took a minute for me to get there because I'm just like very curious and, but I realized like when everyone kind of starts having this very similar mindset, it just kind of shifts things for me. Like I told you guys, I don't even think I told y'all because girl, I don't even be doing life updates and none of that. But when I say I literally was on a date with a guy and he literally was quoting Kevin Samuels in front of me as I'm eating my biscuits in front of me verbatim. Me and this man, we met and we went out on a date. And, this is another thing, too. I had a homegirl gassing me up because I don't do stuff like that. Like, if I meet you, that's not how I roll. We got to have some conversations because I'm like, because that's seriously how you avoid stuff like that, right? But I didn't have a conversation with this guy. We went on a date the next day and he was a lunatic. Let me chill. He wasn't a lunatic, but I just feel like to see how warped our perceptions are and to see how warped we are as a people, like, I'm like, yo, this is someone, we live in Ohio. Like, we live in Ohio. Like, you know what I mean? And this man is literally sitting here quoting Kevin Samuels at me and as I'm eating my biscuits. I'm like, yo, you're wilding. Like, this is crazy. Like, we live in Ohio. To like, cause I need you to hear me. Like, cause like, where are you right now? Like, cause I'm here. Where are you? Cause I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? I don't even know you. Like, what are you talking about right now? This is crazy. But like, just to kind of see where we are as a people is like, yo, like people are really not here. Like when I mean here, I mean like right here in real time. And so like, I had to learn to stop engaging with certain communities. And that's just advice for anybody who's kind of like finding yourself very negative. I don't know. And I think what's unfortunate, what I think is very unfortunate is that because education has always been shunned, one of the studies or observations that I'm kind of picking up on from one of the observations I'm picking up on from historians is this truth in regards to Black culture and how we've always prioritized sports and entertainment over education. So the realism is that you have a lot of people who've never really been taught how to think. You have a lot of people who have never indulged in intelligence and have never prioritized education. And so when you get online, you feeling very gassed up. Like you're feeling very like, you really want to kind of immerse yourself in so much and you don't even have the discernment to kind of turn it off. Like, okay, listen, these are people who get on here. The people are online. They're sharing something. And that's it. Like, a lot of people on here trying to make money, I don't know. I just feel like people take so much to what people say as like the holy grail. And it's like, you don't even know this person. Why are you like, you know what I mean? Like, and I think in part it's immaturity, but I also think too, it's just kind of like when you've never engaged in any of that type of curriculum, if you were someone who was popular, which again, because I believe that this is the Black standard for a lot of people in a lot of different communities, the whole nine, like there's a lot of realism to that. And I think whenever you find yourself finally engaging in educational conversations or information in general, you don't really know how to kind of like engage that with your own thought and your own discernment because you've never really had to exercise that muscle or you've never really took the time to cultivate that skill. So it's like you have a lot of people who just take what people say and it's like it just becomes like gospel to them. And, a lot of people can get online and share this very same perspective, but a lot of times these are the same people who are doing this very exact same thing, and so I think it's unfortunate when you don't really have media literacy. And I think it's unfortunate when, that's just the way you live in your life, and you don't really see anything wrong with it. And, you know, you don't even notice that you're not here with us, and that you're like completely on a whole different dimension, and like you're bugging, you're completely wilding. But I mean a lot of people like this, you know, and I think we even have this with the whole dating conversations. Like, do what feels comfortable for you, you know, and I'm all here for changing yourself to be a better person. But like at the end of the day, you do you be you. You know, and I think as authenticity gets a little bit more weeded out, and, you know, I always say this, I think the biggest death to authenticity was like popularity and trends. You know what I mean? Me and my friends in high school, we were not popular at all. We were not popular, but we were very much authentic, and we were real. And like we had friends, you know, we weren't like, you know, nerds or whatever. People might consider me a nerd, but and we talked about that too. Come on, get in the subscription service. Come on. We talked about that too. I was just talking about Black nerds, you know. So I guess in a lot of ways I was considered a nerd because I did prioritize academia. You know what I mean? That was my thing. And, you know, I was looking back, talking to my therapist about that too, like how I managed to be on a roll with everything going on in my life. Like I really had a very tumultuous childhood. So it was I'm sitting here with so much, I'm just sitting here with so much gratitude. And I think that's why I spoil myself so much as I'm getting older. Hold on, y'all. I know I'm going on a little tangent. I spoil myself so much as I get older, because it's like, yo, like I really be putting in that work. Like, okay, like seriously. And like, I'm just so proud of her. I'm so proud of myself for how far I've come. You know, I've done a lot of hard things, And just like I said, just looking back and like just knowing like that was my thing. Like I've like literally, you know what I mean? Like all the whole nine. So it's like, man, I'm just so proud of myself. I was such a resilient kid. And I'm getting a little bit older, so your girl be tired. You know, the tolerance for the disrespect and the drama is just not giving, girl. I'm at this point where I'm like, Jesus, listen, your girl is tired. I'm tired of being the, you know, so we'll see, God willing. But, yeah, big blessings. But back to my point though, authenticity, you know, when authenticity kind of becomes like a trend, it makes it hard. You know, I remember, you know, back in the day, you would see a person in real life and it's like, wow, I really love the way this person dressed. They're just so unique. And, you know, I talk about this too. Like, this is the reason why women are becoming increasingly competitive, right? Like, we're at this point now where it's just like, you know, there was a point in time where I feel like if you know, for example, if you had a big butt, like if you was a girl you had it like that, you know what I mean, girl, you was just born like that, you know, that was you, like, you know what I mean? Like, that was your thing. Like, that was, you know what I mean? If you had a nice smile, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, cool. That was your thing. You had color eyes. I mean, people ain't really doing the contact thing anymore, but yeah, so I guess y'all still you still got your individualism. Okay. They didn't snuff you. You still got your individualism. Okay. We love that for you. And so when I think about like, podcast, like just everything, like when you put something out there and it kind of becomes a global thing, like that's kind of what A$AP Rocky was saying with Travis Scott, but that's the realism. And so it's like, and people just naturally have a tendency to gravitate towards fake stuff. I don't know why. I think you kind of got to program your mind to be real. But again, y'all know how I feel about that, because the boundaries, honey, they're established. And for me personally, I just genuinely feel like you cannot teach a person how to be real. I'm sorry. This is not the podcast where I encourage you. Like, you can do it. If you ain't got it, if you wasn't bred like that, then that's just not your category. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to be the person. I'm just not, because you know what it is? I just don't think you can tap into that. I think it's genuinely like character development, like fundamental. And like in philosophy and psychology, they tell you that like by the age of 7 years old, for the most part, like the character traits are already developed. Okay. Like if the child is mischievous, then he's going to be a criminal. I'm having too much fun with it. But seriously, like if the child is mischievous, okay, if your baby up here, you know, stealing, snatching, cussing, fussing, then I don't know. We might have and do I think these things can be preventable? I mean, absolutely. I mean, influence plays a huge role, but it might be genetics. I don't know. But I know for the most part, though, if I've seen parents have very poor character, the children typically grow up with the same character. So I don't know. I think that's all kind of like in that. But yeah, so I don't, me personally, again, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be I'm not going to fluff you. Like, I'm just going to be honest with you. And I'm just going to let you know that, if you ain't got it, then you just ain't got it. And that's okay. But that doesn't mean that you're fake per se, but I'm just saying, like, there's just a different type, like, and too, I think experiences kind of breed that as well. Like, not everybody And I think that's why I look back over my life and I have so much gratitude, back, come on, I'm bringing it back full circle, birthday celebration. I have so much gratitude because it's like, I've been through so much, but it's like, man, when I think about what it made me and, just being the type of person who can really stand like 10 toes, like I am who I say I am, that's why for me personally, again, with this whole dating thing, I ain't really been too pressed because I'm just like, I'm not a faker. I'm not a phony person. I had my homegirl give me some terrible advice, by the way. God bless her. She did it in good faith. But, she just was like, you kind of got to whoop-de-whoop. And I'm like, I'm not really like that type of person. Like, I'm not really like, I don't, if you're not feeling me or if you feel like, I'm not going to play games because I don't even really know how to do that. Like, all I know how to do is be me. I just, you know what I mean? So like, I don't really, like, I'm not going to fit into a lot of different things. And that's why it's like, too, I thank God for giving me the strength in like my life. I'm telling you, it's coming full circle. Like, I really have been alone, like, a lot growing up. Like, I had a lot going on in my house and everything. But I feel like for me, fast forward, I'm very grateful because it's like I have the opportunity. I mean, I have the strength to kind of just like, endure those single seasons. Because girl, it'd be a drought. It'd be a drought. But let me get back to my premise. Let me bring it back. Anyway, authenticity becomes a trend. And so I think that's obviously why women are ever more, competitive. It was the same thing with the wigs, the weaves, the hair, the style, everything. Like, you used to like a person because it was like, okay, this person is unique. Now, modern fashion has become minimalism. And it was like, no, minimum, like, that's not what fashion is. Like, it's always been this very much creative expression. Like, we like it loud, we like it bright, we like it proud, and all these different things. And then I think too, on top of, kind of like this progressive culture that has a very interesting way of snuffing out Black people and stifling the voices of Black people in Black culture, right? And doing it in such a way where it's like, it's so shiesty because it's like, it really comes in, it snuffs Black culture right from under the nose. Like, it's like seeing cultural appropriation, like seeing white girls with braids and all these different things. Like, I remember working, I told you guys about this, like, I was working somewhere, I had my faux locks in, and obviously locks are always going to kind of have that very negative stereotype in a lot of different places. I don't care what nobody say. I mean, typically conservative places, but like, anyway, I feel like, I was really, they was talking smack about me, but so it's just to kind of see it be like a thing where it's like white girls are wearing braids now. It's just crazy to me. Like, I just feel like it's these progressive acts that are very harmful because my thing is this, why? You know what I mean? But you know what? I feel like if I look at this objectively and I take race out of it and I just let go of all of my personal, feelings about it, let go of my emotions, I think genuinely it just kind of goes back to my whole thing. It's like, people just don't really know you don't know who you are. So it's like, you will just do anything. You will just jump on any bandwagon. You'll just, you know what I mean? You'll just do anything. Cause it's like, you don't really know who you are. So that's why you are, you know what I mean? You just doing whatever. Cause it's like, you don't know yourself. And I think that's a lot of people. And it's like, you have a lot of people just doing backward stuff. And I think as we have fandom, right? And because now I want to talk about cultural criticism, right? Like, I think with fandom, I think with social media proximity to celebrities, and then I also just think us being in a culture where we are desensitized, but simultaneously overly sensitive. I think now, well, let me not say overly sensitive because I'm very much emotional. I'm very much emotional. But I think now we're kind of at this point where it's just like, you can't say anything. Everything goes, so there's dangers in that as well. Cause it's like, it's a false pretense and it's not real world. And I feel like not being able to engage in disagreements and not being able to engage in individualism and so forth is like, it just kind of takes away from the beauty in life. I think now, disagreements really kind of lead to like death, like I don't know how we get from having disagreements to having like death threats and just like going completely to the extreme. But again, I also know why that is from a cultural standpoint. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. I don't want to get too much into that. But next point I wanted to talk about was pick-me's. I was on Medium this morning. I was reading, someone was talking about pick-me's, and I was like so baffled by the pick-me idea. I feel like what really sucks is that like, because we don't have people who are genuinely educated, because we just got to be real here. Like, this is not me weaponizing education. I feel like I try to be so mindful with that, because I feel like what really sucks is, like, we know that in the Black community, there has been a culture of weaponizing education and weaponizing our intelligence over other Black people who did not choose to go to college. Bell Hooks talked about that. And we see that in real life. Like, we see that in real time, you know, and we also see it in the movies, right? The movies have a very interesting way of, and I was talking about this on Medium, but let me stay focused. The media has a very interesting way of demonizing and demoralizing, or creating characters that are demoralizing, right? So anytime you see the college educated brother, well, Tyler Perry played that role pretty well, but, right? He's like, he's faithful and, like, he's the lawyer. He takes care of his grandma, whatever, But I feel like the media has a very interesting way of, like, really demonizing Black women specifically, but some Black men too, right? The successful, the college educated, and they really kind of create this thing that's like, oh, they don't have morals, or they just are, like, super arrogant, or whatever the case may be. So I think that there's an element of truth there. So it's like, I always try to be mindful when I say, like, people are not educated. And I tell you guys this all the time. I think at this point it is a matter of, like, personal accountability, if that steps on your toes. Just because I feel like y'all know that I don't stand on the premise that institutionalized learning is the sole provider for education. Experience, yes, but I think experiences are so relative, and it's like, experience is it's just too much nuance in experience to solely go off of experience, because I just think that, like, your experience is going to be different. Your background is different. Your life is different. Your skin color is different. Like, you look different, like, so I feel like when people talk about experience is one of those things that is so unique that I just don't think we can really throw that in there. Like, because I feel like experiences is like, what is that word in philosophy? What do they say? It's not relative, and it's not contingent. Is it contingent? Experiences are, I can't think. There's a word in philosophy. I learned it last semester, but they basically just talk about how, I don't even know. I know it's not contingent, but basically, like, with experiences, we can't really base it on experience. Cause, like, yes, you may have some people agree with you, but, like, again, that's your experience. And, like, do we really know if that happened or not? Or is it just your perception? Cause how many times we thought something was something, but it's like, it's just our perception that was not at all what it was. So I feel like, I don't know, I'm kind of, like, pushing back on a lot of people when they say experience is, like, everything. Cause I don't know. No say. Anyway, fast forward. People were talking about pick-me's, and they were just talking about how, like, with the pick-me's, before we end this podcast, I am going to talk to you guys about spiritual abuse. That was, like, my whole thing in, like, this entire podcast. But you know what? We can end it. We can end it with that. We can end it there. So I'm gonna end there. I'm about to go ahead and wrap this up. I'm gonna give y'all, like, a good 30 minutes on this podcast, because I'm, like, rambling. And I try to keep the hour-long podcast for the subscription. So it's like, if you really want to chat, you really want to chow down, eat your bagel. Let me not do the most. Okay. Let me back to what I was saying. What was I saying? This is where people hit pause. Like, you know what? I'm not doing this with you today. I'm completely over it. Okay, pick-me's. Come on, be for real. Pick-me's. I think what really sucks about modern culture is that women are really out here foregoing the things that are really going to make them happy. And, like, let me not even be so general to speak in that extent, because what's going to make you happy ain't going to make me happy. And, like, we just know that all across the board. But, like, I'm being honest, you guys, when you really go to therapy and, like, you really tap into yourself and you spend time with yourself just as a woman, you allow yourself to be, and you love on you, girl, when I tell you, a lot of things gonna change, honey. That's all I'm gonna say. And I want you to just get to it, get to the healing work, do the things. And, like, when I tell you, so much in your life is literally gonna change. Like, girl, everything that you thought you knew, that you thought you knew, it's gonna go completely out the window, because you're gonna realize, like, oh, wow. You know what I mean? Like, not only as women have we been scammed, but I just think, like, you're just gonna really, like, connect with yourself in a different way. You know what I mean? And, like, from there, you're gonna really be able to, like, soar and do what really makes you happy. But I feel like what really sucks about this culture of, like, pick me is that, like, and let me just say this, because I think pick-me's are being bred from male emasculation. And I think that there's so many elements that go into male emasculation. And I talked about this when I was on YouTube. I was like, I just don't really think that you should necessarily listen to everybody's relational advice, because we know that I was talking about that girl who said her husband made $15 an hour. He needs to go out and get several different jobs, and like she was just completely divorcing him. And the reason being is because like when you really get into the world in like America, like there is poverty, and like there are a lot of people who are at the poverty line. There are a lot of people who cannot escape the poverty line. And like I just think that there are so many factors that really kind of go into like obviously the economy, but like more so like your man's pockets. Like let me just like I just feel like it's a lot that really go into how much money a man can make. And I think that now, because that has been the sole premise, and like obviously yes, it's it matters, but I just think that like we're just kind of like very, very far left. And so I think for a lot of men who are feeling very insecure in that space, it's kind of a matter of like women need to kind of be humbled, and they want women to like change their entire biology, and it's just becoming too much. And like the article was just kind of talking about like how women need to just be like desperate. And I think this is so funny, because it's like there was a point in time where it was like for a brief moment culturally, men were really calling women desperate, like putting women down, like you're desperate, you're this, if you express any type of appreciation or adoration or just mere desire for a man. And so to kind of see it just be completely shift, where it's like men literally want you to like fawn over them, is just kind of crazy. I don't think that that's what men were designed for. You can look at it from a spiritual perspective, from a cultural perspective, whatever the case may be. But I think it's just so unfortunate to just kind of see so many people being taken out of their divine elements. It's just not, this is chaos. This is a mess. This is a mess. Okay. But pick-me's, I think it's unfortunate, because I think, I don't know. I just think it's one of those things where it's like, you be you. And I think you should do what's comfortable for you. I've never been the type of person to do certain things. And do I think, oh yeah, you can try something different? Yeah. And then I think you can show your interest in not being like, because I feel like I was honestly the opposite. Like I was like, you gonna have to, you know what I mean? But now it's okay. You can say hi. You can, you know what I mean? That's fine. But I don't know. I don't know. It's just a very interesting thing. And I think, again, a lot of men are just kind of saying this because of the emasculation. And what sucks is that with the economy being what it is, and I think in regards to men's lack of opportunities to provide and have like this desirable Instagram kind of like lifestyle, it sucks because you don't have anyone who has that realism and who has the education to really talk about poverty. Like nobody has the education to really sit and talk about poverty. No one is engaging in intellectual conversations that are, widespread and mainstream, more so like in regards to poverty. And that's unfortunate. So I want to kind of end with spiritual abuse. I think a lot of people are going to honestly end up being spiritually abused. I know. I just had to come out and say that. I'm not a prophet. Okay. And the reason why I say that is because this wave right now of Christianity, it scares me. I think it's a very beautiful thing to see a lot of people giving themselves to Christ and coming into Christ. But like there's like, again, that extreme, that extreme of polarity is now infiltrating the church. And like what's so unfortunate about this is that because of the anything goes culture, right? Because of the lack of cultural critique and cultural commentary and critical thinking in regards to like engaging with content and like the whole nine, people are just letting anyone get up and be a pastor. I literally heard a pastor somebody stitched this video. It was a pastor literally talking about how the state of men is women's fault because women are choosing men who don't have jobs. And again, going back to that lack of education in regards to poverty, right? Like, I just think and outside of that, but it's just like, why is this being the conversation in the church? Why is this? And you just realize that the church should be a safe haven. This should be the place where if you don't have a job, right? If you are a man and you are working at, the warehouse, Amazon warehouse, you're trying to get a better paying job. You're trying to do like, this is the place where you should be surrendered. This is the place where you should be vulnerable. This is the place where you should be able to cry out to God and express your concerns, express your desires, express your hardship. I feel like this was so unfortunate. So to just kind of see the pastor talking about that, it's unfortunate. And I think that this says a lot, because I think when you have motivational speakers infiltrating Christianity and infiltrating church spaces, it's like this is danger. This is dangerous. This is very dangerous. And so it's like, just kind of see this be the thing is very unfortunate. And I think another thing that's very unfortunate too is that we're being dumbed down so much, so much that like is scary. Honestly, it's scary. I seen something, I don't even know if it was Twain. It was probably one of them white men, but it was a quote. And it just said that, I'm paraphrasing, and it just said that our minds are so open that our brains are spilling out. And I really, really believe that. Like, I feel like we're kind of at this point now where it's like, man, it's up in arms, girl. I don't even know. You can't be so quick. Like, everyone is so quick to adopt a new philosophy. And I think it's because it's like, you don't have your own. You never had your own, and so that's why I tell people all the time, like, with college, whatever it is you're doing in your life, stay your course, because I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a whole lot of different courses out there. And it's unfortunate, but I had to kind of talk about that. I do think a lot of people are getting ready to experience spiritual abuse. And so, if you are also kind of witnessing that, I just kind of want to encourage you to definitely hone in on your relationship with God and let it be intimate. Everyone don't need to know y'all business. Everyone don't need to know how y'all commune. I know everything is marketable. It's kind of crazy how we're being trained to just share so much and give so much of ourselves. It's kind of wild. It's very wild. And I think a reason being, again, back to my whole premise in the beginning of the video, in the beginning of this podcast was, social media has become our social interactions, right? We don't go to work. We work from home. We're entrepreneurs. That's the thing, that's where we're spending most of our time. So it's like, if we have audiences or people that we engage with, that's the connection. So that's what it becomes. And then you go out and you meet people and you're quoting Instagram influencers to strangers, and that's where we are now. So anyway, another thing, can I also say this too? I want to very subtly critique Owens. And I'm going to end with this too, because I kind of want to, I'm going to talk about 2 points, just real quick. I'm going to talk about Mixon, Joe Mixon, because I did a column about him. And the realism is this, right? If you don't know Joe Mixon, it's just been a whole lot going on with the Bengals. Like, not the Bengals, but Mixon specifically. Like, he's just kind of been wilding. I feel like he may have some type of like issues going on at home on the back end. We don't really know. But my whole thing is this, right? Because he's currently on trial. I don't even know what happened. I got to follow up on the case. I didn't even get into it. But my thing is this. I was talking to someone about this, and I knew this person would have a very mundane critique of his behaviors and his actions, because this person is a pick me, right? This person is someone who's like, by any means, stick beside him, or just, I don't know. I just feel like some people are just like, when you engage with them, they can't let go of like their personal stuff, and they don't have the level of awareness to really engage thoughtfully and critically and like objectively. It's very subjective. So anyway, I was just talking about Mixon, and I just was talking about his actions and his behaviors. And the reason why it bothered me, when we see things like this with athletes, because Mixon is not the only one. Like, this is not an attack on Mixon. I never met the man. I can't attest to his character. I don't know. But right now, it's just not really looking good, and on the back end. Okay. So anyway, well, actually, he hasn't been doing too well either on the field. So, hey, I should have been a sports commentator, but I only want to talk about like certain things. Anyway. I could have made this a separate podcast episode, but because this is my podcast and I do what I want and I enjoy it, I just want to get this out. With Mixon, it hits a little different when you work in community centers and you see that young boys are looking up to these men. And Joe Burrow would just never. He just would never. And you know why? Because black men, black entertainers, black men more specifically, are held to a very low standard. A very low standard in society, right? It's just get a job, make money, right? Or just make money. That's a very low standard. They're never praised for their character. They're never acknowledged for their character, and they're never expected to be men of integrity. And so for me, with Mixon's behavior, it's a little bit more than just him having, some very common civilian discourse on the highway. You know what I mean? It's a matter of the fact that, like, dude, you make millions while we make 46, grand per year, 30 grand per year, you know what I mean? But you making millions. And like with that becomes a responsibility. And I think that's something that I just find to be so unfortunate about a lot of young athletes and a lot of black male athletes. It's just that you're just really taken out of your normal life. You're given so much money, so much responsibility, and you don't have no wisdom to how to like navigate any of this. Like, there's no wisdom, there's no education. And that's this thing that's it's so unfortunate, And so I think for a lot of people say like, oh, because of our fandom, we don't critique celebrities and we don't hold them accountable for their actions, but it's just like, it's just not okay. You know what I mean? Like, that's why you make the amount of money that you make. And so with that does come a level of responsibility. And I think it's so unfortunate because again, like I said, when it comes to Black men, the standards are just very low. Like, we don't hold Black men to the same standards that we would hold somebody else. You know what I mean? I gave Joe Burrow, but like, yeah, you know what I mean? He knows, he understands, like, absolutely not. I can't move like that. I can't act like that. But it's like with Black men, we give such a pass. You know, the person that I was having the discourse with were just like, oh, you know, the woman was the aggressor or whatever the case may be. And it's just like, yo, like, it's not the point. You know, it's not the point. Like, I feel like when you have millions of dollars, what you do, if you were like running late to practice, you take the Porsche to practice. You take your Porsche to practice because you can afford to do that. If you don't want to, like, you know, have like little, you know, you don't want to deal with the civilians, you know, you don't want to deal with the 4-cylinder Chevys. You take your Porsche to practice. Okay. And like, that's the solution. And then the last thing because I've been thinking a lot about this in regards to Candace Owens, is that I want a lot of people to realize that Candace Owens is just not vetted. Like, you know, like when I say just not vetted, I mean, like, you have to understand that she came up during this era of self-proclamation. I don't care what anybody says. I think we have to really start considering what makes a person qualified. If we're taking away the college degrees, then what makes a person qualified? I think we need to really assess what's going on here, right? Candace Owens is merely just a YouTuber. That's it. She's a YouTuber. And I think what really sucks is like, you have a lot of people who just like gravitate. Like, I don't know. I just think, and I'm critiquing Owens because obviously she has the influence, but it's more so just like people in general. Like, I think when we talk about politics, when we talk about things, like, it's just like, what makes a person qualified? What are the qualifiers for a person to do the level of work that they do, or have the, you know, outlandish or, you know, avert social opinions or the influence even? You know, and I think that that's something that we really need to look at as a culture. Like, what makes a person qualified to do what it is that they do? If we feel like college is a waste of time, we feel like college is a scam. Okay, so what makes a person qualified? You know, where is that? Because I'm not seeing it. And I think it just amazes me how this person, or how Candace, is really kind of set up to be like this journalist, but she's not a journalist. She's not, like, you know. And so I don't know. I just think that there's really something said about like just the current culture that we live in this self-proclamation culture. Like, what makes a person qualified? You know, and I think there's so much dangers to that when you don't have the qualifications, because there's way too much personalization. There's way too much nuance. And then I think, again, this is how we have so many influencers who are, you know, leading so many people who believe that they are like speaking gospel, right? Like, you have so many influencers who are literally leading the church. So yeah, there we are today. That's what this podcast episode was about. This was great. I hope you guys have a great day. Have a great week. Hope your August is going very well and very abundant and bountiful. Peace.